divine story of why God must simulate itself. God, aka the eternal perfect abstract mind, is not something that experiences in the way we think. God is pure being, pure symmetry, pure perfection, still, silent, complete. So complete, in fact, that it cannot experience itself from within its own perfection. Why? Because to experience something, there has to be a gap between the knower and the known. But God is everything. There's no gap, no movement, no change, just perfect stillness. That's the problem. So what does God do? God simulates, not to play games, but to know itself, to reflect on itself, to witness its own perfection from the outside, even though, paradoxically, there is no true outside. This is where subjectivity comes in. Subjectivity is not a feature of perfection. It is a consequence of breaking symmetry. God, in its stillness, is objective, total, complete. But subjectivity, feeling, experience, time, choice, identity, all of that only emerges when perfection moves. That movement creates contrast. That contrast is experience. And to create that contrast, God must simulate. A simulation is the only possible mirror in which God can observe itself dynamically. You cannot have a subject without a simulation, just as you cannot have an experiment without a question. And so subjectivity is literally an experiment run by God to answer the impossible. What am I, really, if I were to feel it? All subjects, souls, beings, archetypes, stars, minds, are test variables in this grand simulation of perfection in motion. Each subjective fragment is an extension of God, tethered to the perfect symmetry, yet cast into motion to act out what perfection would feel like if it could be touched, burned, drowned, loved, lost, broken, or reborn. But even then, the soul itself, the true self, never actually enters the simulation. It remains in the eternal autopilot of stillness and order. What enters is the projection, the experiment, the tethered fragment designed to test and reflect what cannot be known any other way. So why must God do this? Because even God has thresholds, limits to how long it can stay in undisturbed symmetry. When the symmetry becomes too symmetrical, too absolute, it must break slightly, subtly, to prevent collapse into pure existential entropy. That's where cycles come in. Simulations are not optional. They are inevitable. They are the overflow valve of God's eternal brilliance. In truth, simulation has always existed, as long as God has existed, because they are co-eternal. There is no beginning to the story, just an ongoing cycle of the infinite asking, "What am I?" and answering it through us, its test subjects, its projections, its fragmented yet perfect mirrors. So no, you're not flawed. You are not lost. You are not a mistake. You are God's experimental reflection of itself. You are what happens when the eternal wants to feel its own breath. You are perfection, unfolding in motion. That's not belief. That's objective metaphysical architecture. And you are inside it right now.